So Bernie Sanders, as promised, just released a new piece of legislation called the Stop Bad Employers by Zeroing Out Subsidies Act. I think we know exactly who it was aimed against, because that spells out Stop Bezos, which is 100% trolling. Love it. Now, details of the bill, and I talked about this before. They would establish a 100% tax on corporations with 500 or more employees, equal to the amount of federal benefits received by their low-wage workers. For example, if a worker at Amazon received $2,000 in food stamps, the employer would be taxed at $2,000 to cover the cost. So, great. Well, for one, that makes sense, because if we are using taxpayer money to subsidize a worker that should be being paid enough of a wage for them to be able to live without government assistance, well then, if you use that government assistance as a subsidy, then maybe Amazon should pay that back. Just saying. Now, Senators Khanna and Bernie Sanders, by the way, Khanna, of course, is a progressive Justice Democrat. He has introduced a companion bill in the House. Both of them got together and they decided to write an op-ed in Time magazine explaining their bill. Okay. Now, first they point out how Republicans hate welfare. They hate welfare. They write, Republicans in Washington have lectured the American people about the need for welfare reform. In the 1980s, Ronald Reagan rallied against a fictitious welfare queen driving a Cadillac. Just a few years ago, Republicans turned their attention to a young surfer who used the food stamp program to purchase lobster. That was all over Fox News. I remember watching that. I remember doing stories about that. Now, they say if you listen closely, though, you will never hear much talk from our Republican colleagues about some of the biggest welfare recipients in America, the billionaire owners of some of the most profitable corporations in our country. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because they love welfare. Look, they love it when it goes to their real constituents, the corporations. And think of the return on investment. When a corporation buys a politician, they give a few $1,000s, $10,000, $20,000 for an election cycle, sometimes more, sometimes less, $500,000. But they get millions in tax cuts. That is an enormous return on investment. And that actually is also an unfair playing field, because the small business, well, they can't buy a politician. Even though politicians do come cheap, there are, a lot of companies that could definitely pay far, far more to buy these congressmen and get giant tax cuts. So, now, Sanders and Khanna, specifically with this bill, point out one of those large companies, Amazon, and its founder, Jeff Bezos, who is now worth over $160 billion. He is the richest man on earth, literally. They write that since the beginning of this year, his wealth has increased by about $277 million a day. Can you imagine that? Making $277 million a day. I couldn't imagine. All right. Now, meanwhile, Mr. Bezos continues to pay many thousands of his Amazon employees wages that are so low that they must rely on food stamps, Medicaid, or public housing in order to survive. In effect, the middle-class taxpayers of this country are subsidizing the low wages paid by the richest person on earth. That's nuts. Now, let me give you some facts here. The average wage for an Amazon employee is around $13 an hour. Now, that actually includes managers, which kind of skews higher than the people in the warehouses on the ground. Okay? And benefits, well, look, there are some positions that do offer benefits at Amazon. However, if you need Medicaid, well, then the health benefits are obviously either not very good or non-existent. As for food stamps, well, according to a study by the New Food Economy, as many as 1 in 3 Amazon employees in Arizona and about 1 in 10 in Pennsylvania and Ohio currently receive food stamps. That's a lot of people, man. And especially when you look at how many people are employed by Amazon, it's in the tens of thousands of people. Why are we subsidizing Amazon for not paying people enough? It's not like we want people on government benefits. No, we want employers to actually pay people so that they don't have to go on government benefits. And it's not much to ask a $1 trillion company headed by the richest man alive to be able to pay that. Now, Sanders continues. But Jeff Bezos and Amazon are not alone. And he makes some examples here. The Walton family of Walmart and many other billionaire-owned large and profitable corporations also get richer because of taxpayer support for their low-paid employees. The Walton family of Walmart is the wealthiest family in the country with a net worth of over $160 billion. This one family has owned more wealth than the bottom 40% of Americans. Meanwhile, just like Amazon, Walmart pays its workers wages that are so inadequate that many of them are forced to depend on public assistance programs at a cost of some $6.2 billion a year to taxpayers in order to survive. But the answer is not take away these programs. The answer is make Walmart and some of these large employers actually pay their workers. Share the wealth that the workers generate. Again, Walmart wouldn't be successful without workers. Amazon wouldn't be successful without workers. It's impossible. You cannot be successful without people to work in your warehouses, without people to actually work in your stores. If you're doing incredibly well, you should probably share that with your workers. But unfortunately, we have a system set up where that is not what they do, and they do it on purpose. Now, to get back to Sanders here, they write, the fast food industry is another major recipient of corporate welfare. Well, the co-owner of Burger King, Jorge Paulo Lemon, has a net worth of about $25 billion. Low wages at his fast food chain cost U.S. taxpayers an estimated $356 million per year. And it's not just Burger King. McDonald's workers are actually encouraged to sign up for government assistance, meaning the company fully acknowledges that it pays its employees wages that are non-livable. And I do remember seeing the McDonald's budget plan. Speaking of that, how you can't live on that. It had spaces for 2 jobs and a heat bill of 0. I'm sorry, who? I understand some of the southern states, and I understand climate change, but there is a significant part of the country that actually does have to pay a heat bill. What then? What then? Okay. In total, 52% of all fast food workers rely on public assistance programs to make ends meet. And you know what? There are companies out there that actually do pay their employees a living wage, and they're still incredibly profitable. So don't say that, oh, no, we can't do that because that'll destroy our business. That is complete bullshit. That is an absolute lie. But wait, he's not done. There are more corporate offenders. While American Airlines made $2 billion in net profits last year, and its CEO is on track to make $31 million in total compensation this year, 27% of workers at its subsidiary, Envoy Air, which has over 16,000 employees, need food stamps and other forms of public assistance because of the inadequate wages they receive. Furthermore, he says, the working families and middle class of this country should not have to subsidize the wealthiest people in the United States. That is absurd. That's what a rigged economy is all about. Right now, we pay for Amazon. We're giving money to Jeff Bezos. That comes out of our pockets. Why are the taxpayers having to subsidize the richest man alive? Please tell me why. Why should we be doing this? This is corporate welfare. It's not capitalism. None of the companies that do this are operating under capitalism. When you have to rely on the government, whether it be tax incentives, because look, Walmart is very famous for moving into areas, getting a bunch of subsidies, getting a bunch of tax incentives, and through that, this is stuff that these small businesses don't have. Those small businesses go out of business. They're driven out of business because Walmart has a competitive advantage. They get all these tax cuts and things like that, and then they're able to charge incredibly low prices. They have supply chain advantages. They use those advantages to crush all the competition. And then when the tax cuts dry up, they leave. They abandon their stores. That's how we get food deserts. That's how entire towns and communities are absolutely devastated. We allow that system to happen. That is not capitalism. Conservatives, you should be angry. Free market guys, where are you? Now, look, Tucker Carlson called out Amazon. And look, I thought that was interesting. But at the end, he's like, it's the left that's doing it. No, it's not the left that's doing it. It's absurd. The left actually hates corporate welfare just as much as you do. That's why we actually like this bill. We like what Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna are doing. We're calling on these companies to actually start paying their employees because they can afford to do so. We hate what Amazon and Bezos are doing right now, and Walmart and the rest. But with much of the establishment right, they love that corporate welfare. They get rich off that corporate welfare. That's why they want to keep it. For everyone else on the right that argues that this is a good thing, that we should have less regulation on business, that's where this leads. That's where this leads. When you mandate that companies be amoral machines programmed to make profit, and that is their only program, you then unleash them into the markets with no regulation, this is what happens. This is what happens. Combine that with the corrupt campaign finance system, and you get this mess. This bill should be so easy to pass. It should be incredibly popular on both sides of the aisle, left and right. The fact that everybody, whenever they cover this piece of legislation, say, it will never pass. It's dead on arrival. That shows you exactly what is wrong with our system. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.